Matthew and Luke, the two evangelists who speak most of Joseph, tell us very little, yet enough for us to appreciate what sort of father he was and the mission entrusted him by God's providence. We know that Joseph was a lowly carpenter, betrothed to Mary. He was a just man, ever ready to carry out God's will. And tiring journey from Nazareth to Bethlehem, he beheld the birth of the Messiah in a stable, since there was no place for them elsewhere. He witnessed the adoration of the shepherds and the Magi, who represented respectively the people of Israel and the pagan peoples. Joseph was unwilling to put Mary to shame, and so resolved to send her away quietly. A very decent thing to do. But justice is much more than decency. And the Gospel gives us a clue. The real evidence that Joseph is a just man comes in the last verse. When Joseph woke from sleep, he did as the angel of the Lord commanded him. Joseph is obedient to God, conforms his actions to the holy will of God, and in so doing becomes truly blessed. St. Thomas Aquinas defines justice as a habit whereby a man renders to each one his due by a constant and perpetual will. Actually, God alone is just, because God alone is righteous, holy and perfect love. That's why the prophet Jeremiah says, the name of the Messiah will be, the Lord is our righteousness. While God is just, we are not just. We are not righteous because we do not do what we should, and we do what we should not. All of us have fallen short of the glory of God. So, if St. Joseph is just, this is entirely thanks to God, because God came close to him. Joseph lived in a society where women were treated as inferior human beings. Their testimonies were unacceptable and treated as servants without a soul. Most women mentioned in the New Testament even didn't have a name to address. Judaism, Christianity and Islam all have a male God and have scriptures and histories of interpreting those scriptures which are patriarchal. Gender equality has its roots in the story of Joseph, the just man. Christianity dominated countries were the first to wake up to the realization of women's emancipation. Gender equality is not only a fundamental human right, but a necessary foundation for a peaceful, prosperous, and sustainable world. There has been progress over the last decades. More girls are going to school, fewer girls are forced into early marriage. It is now illegal to practice the Hindu funeral practice called Sati Pratha, in which widows were compelled to sacrifice themselves with their husband's pyre. More women are serving in parliament and positions of leadership, and laws are being reformed to advance gender equality. Despite these gains, many challenges remain. Discriminatory laws and social norms remain pervasive. Women continue to be underrepresented at all levels of political leadership, and many women and girls between the ages of 15 and 49 report experiencing physical or sexual violence by an intimate partner within a 12-month period. Gender equality basically begins in the mind. It is an individual's perception of treating another person at par with himself or herself. It does not happen in one day. It's more of a practice that you do every day. Gloria Marie Steinem, the famous American feminist journalist and social political activist, says, a gender equal society would be one where the word gender does not exist, where everyone can be themselves. Coming back to St. Joseph in the New Testament narrative of the struggle to accept Mary as his wife, we have to return to the Jewish traditions and practices. The Talmud specifically says that a man can divorce a woman because she spoiled his dinner or simply because he finds another woman more attractive, and the woman's consent to the divorce is not required. The reason Matthew says that Joseph had resolved to divorce a woman he was only engaged to is because engagement then was a legally binding contract, unlike engagement in the church today. The decision to end a marital relationship can be traumatic, chaotic, and filled with contradictory emotions. There are also specific feelings, attitudes, and dynamics associated with whether one is in the role of the initiator or the receiver of the decision to break up. Joseph and Mary certainly went through this phase of emotional distress. Joseph must have assumed that Mary got pregnant in the usual manner. Hence, he has decided to divorce her quietly. Divine intervention in the form of a dream occurs, preventing that disaster, the disgracing and shaming, and the probable stoning of Mary. Being a righteous man, Joseph must have agonized over this problem day after day. He was longing to show compassion to this young girl. Can we think that Joseph was being prepared by God to come to a new understanding of what righteousness is? The answer is an emphatic yes. For Joseph, it was the birth pang of a new life of merciful faith and experience. When you are confused or disoriented or uncertain about something, it can be an opportunity for growth. Joseph learned that he had to wait on God and trust that God's going to do something in his life he doesn't even know about yet. Apostolic Letter Patris Corde of the Holy Father Francis on the 150th anniversary of the proclamation of St. Joseph as patron of the Universal Church has described the role of St. Joseph in the history of salvation of humanity. The key statement of the Apostolic Letter begins with the word, with a father's heart. That is how Jesus loved Jesus. That is how Joseph loved Jesus, whom all four Gospels refer to as the son of Joseph. The theological reflection of Pope Francis has 7 headings: a beloved father, a tender and loving father, an obedient father, an accepting father, a creatively courageous father, a working father, and a father in the shadows. The last description is the most striking feature of the document, attracting our attention. What are clear today in the marriage social scenario are the increasing divorces and the reality that many people are married for the wrong reasons. Our families are entrenched today in this unfortunate predicament. Do we learn anything from Joseph, the just man? Commitment may be lacking in one of the partners because marriage happens not always out of love. It could be seen as making a good deal, and when it is found that the deal is not what he or she expected, divorce happens. Besides, people looking for quick solutions cannot sustain marriage for long. Unconditional love is the main ingredient that sustains a healthy marriage, and the divine blessings give the much needed oxygen to rupturing families. St. Joseph, the just man, is a beacon light in the dark world of women. God prepared him to protect Mary and her child Jesus. His incomparable emotional intelligence, care and empowerment of Mary in the history of human salvation should illuminate the path of global human development.